The 15 Raksha warriors spread out through the forest in a standard search pattern. They were confident despite the losses. After all, they were trained soldiers with advanced weapons and armor. Their enemy was a human child with a primitive rifle. What they did not understand was that Jinwoo was not fighting their kind of war. He was fighting a war of patience, knowledge, and desperation. The first trap was simple but effective. Jinwoo had strung thin wire across a narrow path between two trees at ankle height. Behind the wire, he had dug a shallow pit and filled it with sharpened sticks pointing upward. He covered it with leaves and branches. 2 Raksha came down the path together. The first one tripped on the wire and fell forward into the pit. The sharpened sticks pierced through gaps in his armor. His partner turned to help him, and that moment of distraction was all Jinwoo needed. One shot from his hidden position and the second Raksha fell. The others heard the screams. They became more careful but also more nervous. Their prey was thinking like a predator. Jinwoo moved to his second position. This was near a cliff edge where the path narrowed. He had spent the morning weakening a large boulder's support. Now he waited perfectly still, his rifle ready. 4 Raksha came along the path, weapons raised and scanning for threats. When they were directly under the cliff, Jinwoo shot the rock's remaining support. The boulder, weighing several tons, broke free and tumbled down. It crushed 2 Raksha instantly. The other 2 dove aside, but one fell off the cliff edge. The 4th survived and radioed back to his commander. "We are being hunted. This is not a random shooter. This is a trained killer." But the Raksha commander could not accept this. A human child? Impossible. He sent 5 more warriors to reinforce the group. Jinwoo heard them coming. He had already moved to his 3rd position near his own cabin. He had prepared this trap carefully. Inside the cabin, he had placed several containers of fuel and chemicals mixed to create a powerful explosive. He had run a long fuse from the cabin to a hiding spot 300 meters away. When the Raksha warriors approached the cabin, they saw it as a potential hiding spot. 8 of them moved toward it cautiously. Their commander had ordered them to burn it if the human was inside, to flush him out. From his hidden position, Jinwoo watched through his binoculars. When all 8 were inside or very close to the cabin, he lit the fuse. It burned slowly, giving him time to move even further away. The explosion was enormous. The cabin disintegrated in a ball of fire. The blast killed 6 Raksha instantly. 2 survived but were badly injured. Their armor cracked and melted. Jinwoo felt a brief sadness at losing his home, the place where he had lived since his parents died. But homes could be rebuilt. People could not be brought back to life. The settlers were worth more than any building. By now, the Raksha commander was in a rage. He had lost 18 warriors, more than half his force, all to a single human. This was humiliating. This was impossible. But it was happening. He called back all remaining warriors. 12 left, including himself. He made a new plan. They would gather the settlers in one place and threaten to kill them one by one until the human surrendered. Then they would torture him for days as an example. But Jinwoo had predicted this. He knew the Raksha would eventually use hostages. He could not allow them to return to the settlement with their current numbers. He needed to reduce them more before they could organize. He moved fast, using paths that no one else knew existed. He arrived at a narrow valley that the Raksha had to cross to return to the settlement. Here the mountains rose steep on both sides. It was perfect for an ambush. Jinwoo climbed to a high position and waited. Soon he saw them coming. 12 Raksha moving in a tight group, weapons ready, eyes scanning everywhere. They had learned to be afraid. Jinwoo had his rifle and all his remaining ammunition. He also had made several large bonfires on the mountainside, creating thick smoke. The wind carried the smoke into the valley, reducing visibility. In the smoke and confusion, Jinwoo began firing. The Raksha could not see him clearly. They fired back wildly, but their shots hit only rocks and trees. Jinwoo's shots were precise. He had been hunting in these mountains for years. He knew how to read wind and distance. He knew how to adjust for the smoke. 3 more Raksha fell. The remaining 9 panicked and ran. They were no longer confident warriors. They were frightened soldiers being picked apart by an enemy they could not see or predict. The Raksha commander screamed orders, trying to maintain discipline. But fear is a powerful thing. It breaks even the best training. Jinwoo pursued them, appearing and disappearing like a ghost. 1 more Raksha fell to his rifle. Then another was caught in a rope trap that Jinwoo had set earlier, leaving him hanging upside down from a tree. A third stepped on a covered pit and broke his leg. By the time the Raksha reached the settlement, only 6 remained. They were exhausted, frightened, and demoralized. The commander could not believe it. He had started with 30 trained warriors. Now he had 5 soldiers and himself. In desperation, he ordered his remaining warriors to gather the settlers. They would use them as shields. Surely the human would not shoot if it meant hitting his own people. But Jinwoo had already reached the settlement. While the Raksha were fighting in the mountains, he had used secret paths to arrive first. He found Mrs. Choi and Dr. Park. "Listen carefully," he told them quietly. "When I give the signal, everyone must get down on the ground. Stay flat and do not move until I say, 'Can you pass this message to everyone?'" They nodded, though they looked terrified. Jinwoo had blood on his shirt from a minor wound, and his face was covered in dirt and smoke. But his eyes were calm and determined. The Raksha entered the settlement from the main road. They were looking around nervously, expecting an attack from any direction. The commander saw the settlers gathered in the square and smiled cruelly. "Human child," he shouted. "I know you are here. Show yourself or I start killing these people, one every minute until you surrender." Jinwoo stepped out from behind a building, his hands empty and visible. He was alone, small, young. The Raksha commander laughed. You killed 18 of my warriors? Impossible." "Not impossible," Jinwoo said calmly. "Just determined." The commander pointed his weapon at Jinwoo. "You will die slowly for what you have done. But first I will make you watch while I hurt these people. You will learn that humans cannot win against Raksha." "Maybe," Jinwoo said, "but you will learn something too. You will learn what happens when you threaten people a human cares about." He whistled sharply. The settlers immediately dropped to the ground, just as he had instructed. The Raksha were confused for just a moment. That moment was all Jinwoo needed. He dove behind cover as the settlers he had armed earlier appeared from hiding spots. They had simple weapons, hunting rifles, crossbows, even farm tools. But Jinwoo had positioned them well, creating crossfire zones. He had taught them the basics during his quick arrival. The battle was short and desperate. The Raksha were better armed, but they were trapped in the open square. The settlers fought with the fury of people protecting their homes. Jinwoo's rifle barked again and again, each shot carefully aimed. 2 Raksha fell immediately. A third was hit by 3 different shooters at once. The commander roared and charged toward Jinwoo's position, his weapon blazing. Jinwoo rolled aside as bullets tore through the wall behind him. He came up aiming and fired. The shot hit the commander's weapon, destroying it. Hand to hand, the commander was stronger. He grabbed Jinwoo and threw him against a wall. Pain exploded through Jinwoo's body. The alien was crushing him, and Jinwoo's vision began to blur. "What kind of creature are you?" the commander hissed. "You should have run. You should have hidden. Any sane being would have fled." Jinwoo gasped for air, but he managed to speak. "I am human. We do not run when we protect others. We do not hide when our people need us. We do not surrender. Not ever." The commander raised his fist to deliver a killing blow. Then he suddenly stiffened. He looked down and saw 3 crossbow bolts sticking from his back, fired by settlers who had finally gotten clear shots. He fell and Jinwoo collapsed beside him. Mrs. Choi rushed to Jinwoo. Dr. Park checked his injuries. He had broken ribs, cuts, and bruises everywhere. But he was alive. The remaining 3 Raksha tried to flee to their ships, but Jinwoo had already destroyed those. They ran into the forest instead, hoping to survive until they could call for pickup. The settlers let them go. They had won. As Jinwoo lay in the dust, breathing hard and bleeding, he heard a sound. Ships. But these were not Raksha vessels. These were Valorian ships, sleek and fast. Hana had arrived with reinforcements. The ships landed quickly. Valorian soldiers emerged and secured the area. Hana ran toward Jinwoo, her leg now fully healed. She knelt beside him, golden tears falling. "You fool," she said softly. "You wonderful, brave, impossible fool. You fought 30 warriors. Only had to fight 12 at the end," Jinwoo said with a weak smile. "The others were easier." Hana laughed and cried at the same time. Her soldiers were already pursuing the escaped Raksha. Medical personnel began treating the injured settlers. It was over. The Valorian captain approached Mrs. Choi. "What happened here?" "We detected massive weapons fire." Mrs. Choi looked at Jinwoo, who was being carefully lifted onto a medical stretcher. "A human happened." Jinwoo woke to the sound of thunder, but the sky was clear. This was not a storm. He jumped from his bed and grabbed his binoculars, running outside. In the early morning light, he saw them. Ships. Multiple ships with dark, angular designs dropping from the sky like birds of prey. They were nothing like Hana's sleek vessel. These were built for intimidation and war. The ships descended around the mountain valley, landing near the settlement. Jinwoo counted them quickly. 10 ships. If each carried 3 warriors, that meant 30 enemies. His stomach turned cold. The communication device around his neck suddenly vibrated. Jinwoo pulled it out. Hana's voice came through, urgent and frightened. "Jinwoo, can you hear me? Please respond." "I hear you," Jinwoo said. "What is happening?" "Raksha marauders tracked my ship signature. They know I was in your area. They want the cure data I carried. They will ransom it back to my people for huge profit, but I destroyed all copies. They do not know this. They will hurt people trying to find information. You must hide." Jinwoo looked through his binoculars again. He could see the aliens now. They were tall, maybe 2 meters, with dark armor covering their bodies. They carried weapons that glowed with power. They were already surrounding the settlement, forcing people into the central square. "They are threatening the settlement," Jinwoo said quietly. "Then wait for help. My people are coming, but it will take 2 days. Local authorities are 3 days away. Just stay hidden, please, Jinwoo." 30 trained Raksha warriors could destroy an entire military unit. One human boy cannot stop them. Through the binoculars, Jinwoo saw Mrs. Choi being pushed to the ground by one of the Raksha. He saw Dr. Park trying to protect a child only to be struck by an alien fist. He saw families huddled together in fear. These were his people, not by blood but by something stronger. They were humans. They were neighbors. And they were being hurt. "I have to help them," Jinwoo said. "No, you will die." "Jinwoo, please think logically. You cannot win this fight." Jinwoo was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke softly but firmly. "You told me Raksha hunt for profit and sport. They enjoy causing fear, but they do not know humans very well. We are stubborn. We do not give up when protecting others. Maybe I cannot win, but I have to try. Jinwoo, if I die, thank you for being my friend. But I will not hide while innocent people suffer." He disconnected the communication before Hana could argue more. He knew she was right about the odds. 30 trained alien warriors against one teenage boy with a hunting rifle and knowledge of the mountains. It was suicide, but that did not matter. What mattered was doing what was right. Jinwoo moved fast. He loaded his rifle and filled his pockets with ammunition. He grabbed rope, matches, his knife, and every tool he could carry. He knew these mountains better than anyone alive. That was his only advantage. He had to use it. From his high position, he watched the Raksha leader address the frightened settlers. The alien spoke in broken human language. "We seek information about Valorian ship, about data it carried. Tell us where it is, and we leave peacefully. Refuse, and we will make examples." Mrs. Choi, brave despite her fear, spoke up. The alien girl already left. She transmitted her data and went home. "There is nothing here." The Raksha leader struck her across the face. She fell hard. Dr. Park tried to help her, but 2 Raksha grabbed him and forced him to his knees. "You lie. Our sensors detected ship in this area for 3 days. Someone helped the Valorian. Someone knows more. We will stay until we find truth." The leader gestured to his warriors. "Search every building. Question everyone. Start with the weak ones. They break easily." Jinwoo's jaw clenched. He had seen enough. He moved silently through the forest, circling around to where 3 of the Raksha ships sat unguarded. The aliens were confident. They believed no one would dare attack them. They were about to learn otherwise. Jinwoo approached the ships carefully. He examined their construction quickly. The hulls were strong, but he noticed the landing gear was more vulnerable. He also saw that the ship's fuel tanks were exposed on the underside, probably for easy refueling. He worked fast. Using his rope and some branches, he created a basic but effective trap around the landing gear of the first ship. Then he took several containers of fuel from his emergency supplies and placed them strategically under the second ship. For the third ship, he studied the cliff face above it. There were loose rocks barely held in place. With the right trigger, they could fall. Jinwoo climbed to a position above the ships. He took careful aim with his rifle at the fuel container under the second ship. He breathed slowly, steadying his hands. He fired. The bullet struck true. The fuel ignited instantly. The explosion was massive, sending flames high into the air. The second ship was engulfed. But the explosion also triggered Jinwoo's rope trap on the first ship. causing it to tip and crash into the burning wreckage. Both ships were now destroyed. The third explosion happened naturally. The heat and force from the first two ships caused the unstable cliff face to collapse. Tons of rock fell on the third ship, crushing it completely. The Raksha in the settlement heard the explosions and saw the smoke. Confusion spread through their ranks. The leader roared orders in his own language. 10 warriors ran toward the ships to investigate. Jinwoo was already moving to his next position. He knew the paths through the forest. He knew where sight lines were blocked. He knew every cave and hiding spot. The 10 Raksha reached the destroyed ships. They were angry and confused. How had this happened? Was it an accident? A malfunction? From 200 meters away, hidden in dense brush, Jinwoo fired again. One Raksha fell, struck in the gap between his armor plates. The others scattered, looking for the shooter. But Jinwoo was already moving again. The Raksha were trained warriors, but they were trained for open combat. For ship-to-ship battles, for urban warfare. They were not trained for guerrilla fighting in unknown territory against an enemy who knew every rock and tree. Jinwoo led them away from the settlement, deeper into the mountains. He moved like a ghost, appearing just long enough to fire a shot, then vanishing. 2 more Raksha fell to his rifle. The remaining 7 were furious and frightened. "It is just one shooter," their squad leader shouted. "Find him." But finding Jinwoo in his mountains was like finding a specific snowflake in a blizzard. He was part of this land. He knew it like he knew his own heartbeat. Back at the settlement, the Raksha leader received the news. 3 ships destroyed, 5 warriors dead, all by an unknown attacker. His confidence began to crack. "Who dares attack us?" he demanded. "What military forces here?" One of the settlers, a young farmer, spoke up despite his fear. "There is no military. But you picked the wrong mountains to threaten. Someone here is very angry at you." The Raksha leader grabbed the farmer by his throat. "Who? Tell me or die." "The boy," Mrs. Choi said, her face swollen from where she had been struck. "The orphan boy who lives in the mountains. You have made him angry. And when you make a human angry while they are protecting others, you have made a terrible mistake." The Raksha leader threw the farmer down and roared in frustration. "One human child? Impossible. Send 15 more warriors. Bring me his head." But as the sun climbed higher in the sky, Jinwoo prepared his next move. He had hurt them, but he knew he could not stop. The moment he slowed, they would regroup and return to threatening the settlers. He had to keep them off balance, keep them afraid, keep them focused on him instead of on innocent people. Jinwoo checked his ammunition. He had enough for maybe 50 more shots.
He had traps prepared in 3 different locations.
He had the advantage of terrain and surprise. But he was one human against 25 trained alien warriors. He was tired and running on adrenaline. He was 16 years old and alone. Yet as he moved to his next position, Jinwoo did not feel afraid. He felt determined. These Raksha had come to his home. They had hurt his people. They had threatened the weak and innocent. They were about to discover what happened when you pushed a human too far. They were about to learn that humans fight differently than other species. Humans do not follow the rules of civilized warfare when defending their own. Humans become something more dangerous. They become survivors who refuse to quit. Jinwoo smiled grimly as he heard the Raksha warriors crashing through the forest, looking for him. Let them come. He would teach them why humans, despite being small and weak, had conquered the stars. The hunt was on. But the Raksha would soon realize they were not the hunters. They were the prey. The third day started with hope. Jinwoo could see the settlement in the valley below, still several hours away but finally within reach. The sun was bright and the path was easier now that they were descending. Hana's translator device kept making small, happy sounds. She was checking the time constantly. They still had until sunset to make it. They would succeed. "We will make it," Jinwoo said, reading her worried expression. "I promised, remember?" The journey down the mountain was faster than going up had been. Jinwoo's legs ached from days of pulling the travois, but he pushed through the pain. Around noon they reached the valley floor. The settlement was only an hour away now. The settlement was small, maybe 50 buildings clustered around a central square. It served as a trading post for travelers and the few families who lived in the area. In the center was a tall communication tower, its antenna reaching toward the sky. People stopped and stared as Jinwoo pulled the travois through the streets. They had seen aliens before, but not many. and they had never seen young Jinwoo with anyone. He kept to himself, only coming to trade furs and buy supplies every few months. Jinwoo brought Hana directly to the communication center. The building was run by an old woman named Mrs. Choi, who had worked with interstellar communications for 30 years. "I need to send data to Velour system," Hana said urgently as soon as they were inside. "Emergency priority." "Medical information." Mrs. Choi looked at the broken alien girl and the exhausted human boy. She asked no questions. She simply helped Hana connect her device to the transmission array. The data upload took 10 minutes. When it was done, Hana received a confirmation message. The information had been received. The cure could now be manufactured. Thousands of lives would be saved. Hana began to cry. The golden tears ran down her blue-tinted cheeks. She spoke in her own language, words the translator could not capture. But Jinwoo understood. It was relief. It was joy. It was grief for those already lost. Mrs. Choi called the settlement doctor to examine Hana's leg. Dr. Park was a kind man who had treated both humans and aliens before. He confirmed the leg was healing properly and gave Hana medicine to help with the pain. "Your friend did good work," Dr. Park told Hana, nodding at Jinwoo. "The splint was set correctly. You are lucky he found you." "Not luck," Hana said firmly. "Human kindness." That evening, Mrs. Choi insisted they stay in her spare rooms. Hana sent a message to her people telling them where she was. They would send a ship to retrieve her, but it would take at least a full day to arrive. "You should rest here," Hana told Jinwoo. "Before you go back to mountains." Jinwoo nodded. He was more tired than he wanted to admit. His body ached everywhere, but he had done what he promised. That felt good. The settlement held a small dinner to celebrate. People were curious about Hana and her story. She told them about her world, about the plague, about the desperate race to deliver the cure, and she told them about Jinwoo, who had crossed the mountains with her when it seemed impossible. "He gave me his blanket when he was cold," Hana said. "He shared his food equally, even though he could have eaten more. He faced a dangerous creature to protect me. He never asked for payment. He did this because he said it was right." The people looked at Jinwoo with new respect. They had always thought of him as the strange orphan boy who lived alone. Now they saw something else. They saw someone who embodied the best of what humans could be. Later that night, Jinwoo and Hana sat outside under the stars. The air was cool but not cold. Hana's leg was propped up on a cushion. "Tell me about those stars," Jinwoo said, pointing up. "Which one is your home?" Hana pointed to a bright star in the western sky. "That one. It takes 3 months to travel there with fast ships. What you see is light from years ago. By the time you see it, it has already changed." "That's strange to think about," Jinwoo said, looking at the past. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Hana spoke quietly. "I was taught wrong things about humans. We learned you were weak, that you died quickly, that you were too emotional to be effective. But I was wrong. Humans are not weak. You are strong in ways my people have forgotten." Jinwoo thought about this. "Maybe we are weak in some ways. We don't live as long as your people. We are not as strong as some species. But we have each other. That makes us strong enough." Hana pulled out a small device from her pocket. It looked like a smooth stone that glowed with internal light. "This is communication device. It works across star systems. I want you to have it. If you ever need help, you call me. I will come." "I don't need anything," Jinwoo said. "I know. That is why I give it to you. True friends give not because they must, but because they want to." Hana pressed the device into his hand. "You saved my life. You saved my people. I can never repay this, but I can be your friend." Jinwoo closed his fingers around the device. It was warm. "Thank you. I would like to have a friend." They talked late into the night. Hana told him about the different species she had met, about vast cities on water worlds, about species that lived in the clouds of gas giants, about the Galactic Council that tried to keep peace between thousands of worlds, and she told him about the Raksha. They were a species of raiders and marauders. They hunted for profit and sport. They were feared across many systems. "They have been seen in this sector recently," Hana warned. "They track ships looking for valuable cargo. You should be careful." "I am always careful," Jinwoo assured her. "Besides, I have nothing they would want." The next morning, Hana's rescue ship arrived. It was sleek and beautiful, nothing like her destroyed escape pod. 3 Valorians emerged, including a captain who hugged Hana with relief. The captain wanted to reward Jinwoo. He offered credits, technology, even a position on their ship. But Jinwoo refused it all. "I just want to go home to my mountains," he said simply. The captain looked confused, but Hana smiled. She understood now. Jinwoo did not want rewards or recognition. He wanted his simple life. That was enough for him. Before boarding the ship, Hana hugged Jinwoo. It was awkward because of her broken leg, but she managed it. "Do not forget me," she said. "I won't," Jinwoo promised. "And if you need to cross any more mountains, you know where to find me." Hana laughed, golden tears in her eyes again. Then she limped onto the ship with help from her people. The vessel rose into the sky, graceful and silent. Jinwoo watched until it disappeared into the clouds. He spent one more night in the settlement, then gathered his supplies. The next morning, he began the long walk back to his cabin in the mountains. His body was still sore, but his heart felt lighter than it had in years. He had helped someone. He had made a difference. And he had made a friend among the stars. The communication device hung around his neck on a cord. It pulsed gently with a faint light like a second heartbeat. Jinwoo smiled as he walked. His solitary life was still his, but now it had a connection to something larger. He did not know that this connection would soon be tested. He did not know that danger was already approaching. He did not know that tomorrow, 30 Raksha marauders would descend on his mountains seeking revenge and profit. All Jinwoo knew was that he had done the right thing. And when tomorrow came, he would face whatever happened with the same stubborn human determination that had carried Hana across the mountains. That would have to be enough. The sun had barely risen when Jinwoo woke Hana. She had slept poorly, her leg throbbing with pain despite the splint. He gave her some dried meat and water, then helped her onto the travois he had built. The wooden frame creaked as she settled onto the canvas, but it held. "Ready?" Jinwoo asked. Hana nodded, gripping the sides of the travois. Jinwoo picked up the 2 poles and began to pull. The weight was heavy but manageable. He had pulled heavier loads of firewood before. They started up the mountain path as the morning mist still clung to the valleys below. The first hour was not too difficult. The path was relatively smooth and Jinwoo found a steady rhythm. But as they climbed higher, the terrain became rougher. Hana watched the human boy in front of her with growing amazement. He was thin and did not look particularly strong, yet he pulled her weight up steep inclines without stopping to rest. His breathing became heavier, but he never complained. "You need rest," Hana said through her translator after 3 hours. "We need to keep moving," Jinwoo replied. "We have a schedule," but he did stop at a small stream. He refilled their water containers and ate some dried fruit. Hana noticed he gave her the larger portion. When she protested, he simply said, "You need energy to heal." This made no sense to her. In her culture, the strong took more resources. That was natural law. But Jinwoo followed different rules. By afternoon, they reached the first major pass. The wind here was fierce and cold. Hana's species could tolerate cold better than humans, but even she felt uncomfortable. She looked at Jinwoo and saw his lips were turning blue. "You are cold," she observed. "I'm fine," Jinwoo said, though his voice shook slightly. He pulled out his thermal blanket and wrapped it around Hana instead of himself. She tried to refuse, but he was already moving again, pulling the travois up the rocky slope. "Humans handle cold better than most species," he said. It was partially true. Humans were adaptable. But Hana could see he was suffering. As evening approached, dark clouds rolled in. Jinwoo found a shallow cave and pulled Hana inside just as the first drops of rain began to fall. Within minutes, it became a heavy storm. Thunder echoed through the mountains. Jinwoo gathered dry wood he found deep in the cave and built a small fire. The flames cast dancing shadows on the rock walls. He prepared a simple meal from his supplies, cooking some of the rabbit he had caught. "Tell me about your home," Jinwoo said as they ate. "What is it like?" Hana hesitated. She was not used to personal questions. But something about the firelight and the storm outside made her want to talk. "My world is called Valor. It has 3 moons. Our cities are built with crystal that captures starlight. We are peaceful people. We trade with many species. But then the plague came. It spread so fast. Thousands died. The cure was found on a research station, but the station was destroyed. I was carrying the only copy of the data. That's why you have to get there in time," Jinwoo said. "How many people will this save? Maybe 50,000, maybe more." Jinwoo nodded slowly. Then we'll get you there. I promise. Hana looked at this strange human boy. He had known her for only one day, yet he spoke of her people's lives as if they were his own family. This was incomprehensible. Why humans care so much? She asked. You do not know my people. We are nothing to you. Jinwoo poked at the fire with a stick. My father once told me something. He said that the universe is big and cold and empty. The only thing that makes it worth living in is when people help each other. Doesn't matter if you're human or alien. If someone needs help, you help them. The storm raged outside, but inside the cave it was warm. Hana found herself thinking about human philosophy. Other species would call it naive, inefficient. But watching Jinwoo, who had so little yet gave so freely, she wondered if maybe humans understood something others had forgotten. The next morning brought clear skies but freezing temperatures. Ice covered the rocks, making every step dangerous. Jinwoo moved more slowly now, testing each foothold before putting his weight on it. Twice the travois slipped on ice, and twice Jinwoo caught it before Hana could fall. Around midday, they entered a narrow pass between two tall peaks. Jinwoo suddenly stopped. He held up his hand for silence. Hana heard it too. A deep, rumbling growl. From behind a large rock, a creature emerged. It looked like a bear, but larger and more aggressive. Its fur was dark and matted. Its eyes were wild. This was one of the mutated animals that appeared after Earth's ecological disasters decades ago. The bear saw them and roared. It was massive, easily weighing 300 kilograms. Hana's eyes went wide with fear. On her world, they would run, call for help, wait for armed assistance, but Jinwoo did something different. He picked up a large branch and struck it against the rocks, making a loud noise. Then he pulled out a small container from his pack and threw it at the ground near the bear. It burst into flames, creating a wall of fire between them and the creature. Get back, Jinwoo shouted at the bear, waving the burning branch. This is our path. The bear hesitated. It was not used to prey that fought back. Jinwoo took a step forward, still making noise, still appearing larger than he was. He threw another fire container. The flames grew higher. Finally, the bear decided this meal was not worth the trouble. It turned and lumbered away into the rocks. Jinwoo waited until it was completely gone, then put out the fire. His hands were shaking, but his face was calm. Are you hurt? He asked Hana. No, but you faced death, creature. You did not run. Jinwoo shrugged. Running would not help. I had to make it leave. Hana stared at him. Her species would consider such action foolish. But it had worked. The human had protected her through courage and quick thinking, not through superior strength or weapons. They continued through the pass. By evening, they had crossed the halfway point. Jinwoo found another shelter, a ruined stone building from before the wars. They spent the night there, and Hana asked more questions about humans. She learned about human history, about wars and peace, about art and music, about how humans had almost destroyed their own world, then worked together to save it, about how they reached for the stars not because they were the strongest or smartest, but because they refused to give up. Humans are stubborn, Jinwoo admitted with a small smile. We don't know when to quit. Maybe that's our best quality. As Hana drifted to sleep wrapped in the thermal blanket that should have been Jinwoo's, she realized something. She had spent 2 days with a human, and everything she had been taught about them was wrong. They were not weak. They were determined. They were not fragile. They were resilient. They were not overly emotional. Their emotions made them strong. Tomorrow they would finish the journey. But tonight, for the first time, Hana understood why humans had survived and spread across the stars despite being physically weaker than most species. They simply refused to give up on each other. The morning air was cold and sharp in the mountains. Jinwoo walked along his usual path, checking the traps he had set the day before. He was 16 years old and lived alone in a small cabin deep in the Taebaek Mountains. His parents had died 3 years ago in an accident on a mining planet far from Earth. Since then, he had learned to survive by himself. He moved quietly through the forest, his breath making small clouds in the cold air. The first 3 traps were empty. The 4th had caught a rabbit. Jinwoo reset the trap and put the rabbit in his bag. Winter was coming, and he needed to stock up on food and furs. As he walked toward the next trap, he heard something strange. It was a low humming sound like nothing he had heard before. Jinwoo stopped and listened carefully. The sound was coming from the western slope near the old river valley. He changed direction and headed toward it. After 20 minutes of careful climbing, he saw something that made him freeze. There was a small ship half buried in the rocky ground. Smoke rose from its broken hull. The metal was twisted and burned. This was not a human ship. Jinwoo had seen pictures of alien vessels before, but never in person. He approached slowly, his hand on the knife at his belt. As he got closer, he heard a sound from inside the wreckage. Someone was alive in there. Jinwoo climbed carefully over the broken metal and looked inside. What he saw shocked him. A girl lay trapped under a piece of the ship's interior. But she was not human. Her skin had a pale blue tint and seemed to shimmer in the light. Strange markings on her arms glowed faintly. Her face was similar to a human's, but her eyes were larger and had a golden color. She looked at him with fear and pain in her eyes. Her leg was bent at a wrong angle, clearly broken. She said something in a language Jinwoo could not understand. "I don't understand you," Jinwoo said slowly, "but I'll help you." He worked carefully to lift the metal piece off her. It was heavy, but he managed to shift it enough for her to pull herself free. She cried out in pain as she moved. Jinwoo noticed a small device attached to her collar. It was blinking with a red light. The girl touched the device and pressed something. Suddenly, Jinwoo heard words he could understand, though they sounded strange and mechanical. "Thank you," the device translated. "I am Hana. My ship crashed." "I need help," Jinwoo nodded. "I'm Jinwoo. Your leg is broken. Can you walk?" Hana tried to stand but fell immediately. She shook her head, tears in her strange golden eyes. She spoke again, and the translator worked to change her words. "I must reach the settlement on the other side of mountains. 3 days. I carry important data, medicine information. My people are dying from plague. If I do not deliver in 3 days, the data becomes useless. Please, I can pay you much money." Jinwoo looked at the destroyed ship, then at the mountains. The journey over the peaks was difficult even for someone healthy. With an injured person, it would be nearly impossible. The smart thing would be to refuse, but he looked at Hana's desperate face. He thought about his own parents who had died far from home. He thought about how someone had helped him when he was alone and scared after their death. "I don't need your money," Jinwoo said, "but I'll help you because it's the right thing to do." Hana looked confused. The translator device seemed to struggle with his words. "Right thing? What means this?" "It means helping someone who needs help," Jinwoo explained. "Come on, my cabin is not far. I need to prepare things for the journey." He helped Hana stand on her good leg. She was lighter than he expected. Jinwoo let her lean on his shoulder as they slowly made their way down the slope. Every step made her gasp with pain, but she did not complain. At his cabin, Jinwoo made her sit on his bed. He had learned basic first aid from books and from the few travelers who passed through. He carefully examined her broken leg. It was a clean break, which was good. "This will hurt," he warned her. He set the leg as straight as he could while Hana bit down on a piece of leather to keep from screaming. Then he made a splint using straight branches and cloth strips. It was not perfect, but it would have to do. Hana was breathing hard, her bioluminescent markings pulsing with pain. "Human boy is brave," she said through the translator. "Most would leave me." "Most humans wouldn't," Jinwoo replied. He went to his storage area and began pulling out supplies. Rope, a large piece of canvas, dried food, water containers, his thermal blanket, and his father's old hunting rifle. "Your species is considered weak by others," Hana said, watching him work. "Small lifespan. Fragile bodies, emotional. Why you help, stranger?" Jinwoo stopped and looked at her. "Maybe we are weak compared to others. Maybe we don't live as long. But we help each other. That's how humans survive. We take care of each other because no one else will." He finished packing and built a wooden frame with 2 long poles. He attached the canvas to it, making a travois that he could pull. It would let him drag Hana over the rough ground without making her walk. "We leave at dawn," Jinwoo said. "The journey takes 3 days if weather is good. Maybe 4 with your injury." "We must move fast," Hana nodded slowly. She was still trying to understand this strange human boy who would risk his life for someone he just met. On her world, such actions made no sense. Everything had a price. Everything was a transaction. But here, in this small cabin in the mountains, a human orphan was preparing to do the impossible simply because he said it was right. That night, Jinwoo gave Hana his bed and slept on the floor. She protested, but he insisted. As she lay there in the darkness, listening to his steady breathing, Hana realized something. Maybe the other species were wrong about humans. Maybe being emotional and caring was not weakness. Maybe it was a different kind of strength. Outside, the wind grew stronger. Storm clouds gathered over the peaks. The journey ahead would test them both. But for the first time since her crash, Hana felt something she had not expected to feel: hope.